Hello everybody and welcome to the DIY Girls Virtual Fall Fundraiser. I'm Jo Wright, the board chair of DIY Girls. We're very excited to host our first virtual fundraiser and to have you join us online to do something a little different than usual, something we couldn't do if we were meeting in person. So I hope some of you will be cooking along with us at home, enjoying your ceviche and toasting DIY Girls with your margarita. We're planning some fun interactive activities this evening and there will be prizes, so please make sure that your Zoom screen name is your name so we can identify you if you're a lucky winner. I want to tell you a little bit about why DIY Girls is important to me. I work in the tech industry in computing and I loved computers from an early age, but I was dissuaded from my interest directly by people who told me that computers weren't for girls, and indirectly by all the images and stereotypes that surround us, showing only men and boys being successful with computers. I persisted anyway through a combination of stubbornness and honestly a bit of obliviousness, but you shouldn't have to be stubborn and oblivious to have access to the same opportunities. I've worked in the tech industry now for over 25 years, and in that time I've seen some improvement in diversity, but nowhere near the change that we really need. And a diverse STEM industry does many things. It provides access to jobs for anyone, regardless of their background. It also creates the possibility to make the world a more equitable place with technology and engineering that serves all people, because it was designed and built by all kinds of people who understand all kinds of users and markets. So in order to overcome these barriers, you need mentorship, confidence building, and role models. These are things that I didn't have access to as a child, and I want to make sure that they're available to our girls. DIY Girls allows girls to discover that they are incredibly smart and capable, and that they can learn any skill they need to build whatever they imagine. Our programs build girls' confidence, interest, and skills in technology, engineering, and making, so we can build a better future. Now I would like to introduce our fantastic Executive Director, Leticia Rodriguez.
Thank you, Jo. And thank you all so much for joining us. On behalf of DIY Girls, I would like to acknowledge and thank the following companies and foundations who have sponsored our event: Slick Deals, Arcadis, Opportune, SoCal Gas, Pharma, Alexandria Real Estate, the Eli and Edith Broad Foundation, Coca-Cola, Verizon, California Community Foundation, Laurel Canyon Stages, Microsoft, AT&T, Gain, CodeSpark, Digital Dragon, WSP USA, Prime Store, and Sound Sculpture Incorporated. We would also like to acknowledge our DIY Girls founder, Assemblymember Rivas, for joining us this evening. And thank you also to our board members, individuals, and companies who generously donated items for our silent auction. At DIY Girls, we are empowering the next generation of female STEM leaders. 100% of our alumni are currently enrolled in college, and 75% of them are pursuing a STEM-related major, including aerospace, mechanical, and computer engineering. Several of our alumni are also now instructors for our programs, mentoring the next generation of girls. I will leave you with a quote from Brisa, an 8th grade student at Vaughan MIT who recently completed our program. "The most important thing I learned is to keep trying. There is always another way." Now I would love to introduce our organizational video, which captures the essence of our programs and highlights some of the girls we serve. I hope you all enjoy it.
Before I joined DIY Girls, I wasn't very knowledgeable in the STEM field.
I don't think I probably would have even pursued engineering, because during my senior year of high school, I was still very confused as in what I wanted to do.
I founded DIY Girls because I wanted young girls from my community to have access to STEM and hands-on making experiences, starting in elementary school and continuing all the way to high school.
When I first joined DIY Girls, I was introduced to electronics, so we did a lot of art building, taking apart stereos, connecting LED lights.
I participated in the programs Creative Electronics, the Woodworking Count Twice, and the Creative Coding.
What I enjoyed most about the Creative Electronics program was the early exposure to engineering, which is the very basics like soldering, building things from scratch, and coding.
What has inspired me the most is watching my students working so hard, tirelessly, effortlessly to address the need of the society.
The solar-powered backpack tent is a tent created for the homeless, able to resist different weathers, specifically the LA weather, and it also has a USB portable charger, UV lights, and LED lights.
This year we decided to focus on renewable energy. We created an innovative biodigester. Biodigester will be taking in food waste. As that compost is fermenting, it's going to be producing biogas to use later to power a hot plate to cook.
They are young women that have grown to become great, effective communicators.
I see the young ladies who stand a little taller, more proud, who have a mindset that they can do it.
The organization and the programs were designed to empower the girls all along, from 5th grade until they graduate from college, and then when they enter STEM careers.
I see myself in the future working at a laboratory as a forensic scientist.
I want something in the field of coding.
My dream college is MIT, and I would like to study biomedical engineering.
I hope to achieve my goal of becoming a computer hardware engineer.
Hi, I'm Tori Polka, and I'm on DIY Girls Board of Directors.
And I'm Macaria Flores, Washington, a fellow board member.
You know, Macaria, I really love seeing that video, especially this year when I can't visit the programs in person.
Yeah, me too. I miss the girls' energy, their excitement as they create all their fabulous pieces in our after-school programs.
And I really love going to the Invent Girls Showcase, getting to see how they've picked up something in their own community that they see as a problem and then create an actual prototype that they are choosing to address it. It's really inspiring. It's totally fun to hop onto one of the Zoom classes, but it's just not the same as seeing the projects up close and in person.
Yeah, I hear you, Tori, but the reality is that we can't continue our programs for our girls in grades 5th through 12th without our sponsors. And tonight, we need all of your help. This evening, we have set a fundraising goal of $20,000. $20,000 covers the launching of one of our programs at one of our schools and sponsors 30 girls to participate in our after-school programs. There are 3 ways you can help.
You can donate by texting DIY 2020 to 707070. Or if you'd rather send a check, you can pledge by sending an email to amanda@diygirls.org. She's checking her emails all evening so she can add your pledge to our totals. We're putting this info in the chat box too.
The first text donation that we receive tonight gets a signed copy of Jocelyn's cookbook.
That's great. I hope my husband was the first donation.
Yeah, and I know I have a lot of colleagues and friends out there, so get to texting. Tori, I can't help to notice your fancy headband.
Look at yours. I really like it. You know, we should have a contest.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Tori and I both decorated our headbands DIY style, and you guys can vote for your favorite using text to donate. If you like mine the best, which I know you do, end your donation in 1.
And if you like mine the best, end your donation in the number 2. 2. You can donate $12, $102, $502.
Okay, stop. I think they should be ending their donations in 1. 251, 501, and all of our favorite.
All right.
The 101.
No. You can also support DIY Girls by bidding on our online auction. You can check in chat for a link, and also it's right there. We have artwork that was done by our girls in our creative coding class and 3D printed planters designed by our girls in our 3D design and printing camp, which we offered via Zoom this summer. There are also a lot of other great items donated by our supporters and by our board members.
Okay, everyone, the auction closes tonight at 7. You still have plenty of time to get your winning bids in.
And while everybody makes donations ending in 2 and checks out the auction, I would love to welcome our co-host for the evening, DIY Girls Director of Programs and Partnerships, Christina Gutierrez.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tori and Macaria. I see your awesome DIY headbands, and I raise you a Poderosa headband. This is actually one of the projects we do with our girls. They get to choose an empowering word that describes them and add some LEDs. I figured I'd wear mine tonight as a reminder that we are here to raise funds so that we can continue to provide hands-on programs to girls in our community. I hope you are all just as excited as I am for this evening's cooking demonstration. And if you're cooking along with us, please share your process and final dishes on social media. Tag us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. All of the links to our social media pages can be found in the chat box. Before we start this evening, we'd like to give away another signed copy of Jocelyn's cookbook to the first person who logged on this evening. This person will get a private chat message from our team to claim their prize, so keep an eye on that chat box. Our special guest this evening is Jocelyn Ramirez. Jocelyn is a plant-based chef, author, college professor, yoga instructor, and founder of Todo Verde. As an advocate for healthy food access in her community, Jocelyn founded Todo Verde in 2015 with a mission to create delicious and healthy plant-based food inspired by her Mexican and South American roots. Her work has been featured in several press outlets, including the LA Times, USA Today, Vice, Spotify, BuzzFeed, Smithsonian, and Bon Appetit, and more. Wanting to share her expertise in delicious plant-based Mexican food, Jocelyn published her first cookbook, La Vida Verde, plant-based Mexican cooking with authentic flavor. Let's give a warm welcome to Jocelyn Ramirez.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Christina. And thank you so much, everyone, for having me. I'm so excited to cook with all of you tonight. And I'm hoping that you all have the ingredients in front of you and are ready to get started with our dish. Before we get started, again, I want to thank DIY Girls and all the work that this organization does to support young women in their journey to get more into tech. And so I started Todo Verde back in 2015 here in Los Angeles because I wanted to be able to create more healthy plant-based food for my community here in Los Angeles. And I wanted to do that while still creating that same nostalgic feeling that a lot of us feel when we eat the food that we love, right? I wanted people to feel like they're pulling up a chair at my abuelita's table and still eating all the things like mole, ceviche, tacos, al pastor, carnitas, instead of thinking that, oh, plant-based means I have to eat a kale salad. So I'm so happy to share this really, really easy ceviche with you. We're going to get started with just dicing up or slicing up our heart of palm and marinating it before we move on to the next steps. So I have a second camera here, and you should be able to see my cutting board. And I'm going to bring my heart of palm into the shot here. And let's see. Hopefully it will come up. But in the meantime, as it comes up, I can show you here, heart of palm is a really, really delicious ingredient, one that comes typically jarred, canned in a lot of different varieties here in the States, and it grows typically in South America. And it's just such an awesome, it is on, I think. Hold on one second. Let me, all right, there we go. I think my camera is on the second option, but heart of palm is something that that definitely has like this really, really nice flavor profile that's similar to like a crab meat. Actually, at first when I tried it, actually before going plant-based, a friend had put it in a salad and I thought that it tasted just so much like crab meat, like sort of like an imitation crab. And I thought, oh, that would really be good as a potential option in a ceviche later on down the line. And sure enough, as I went vegetarian and then vegan, I ended up using this in a variety of different things, including everything from crab cakes, ceviche, cocteles. So it's really simple to work with it. It comes in this sphere shape, and you're just going to essentially slice it. You can dice it, you can chop it up however you'd like, and we're going to marinate it for a little bit. All I did was I took this, I actually used canned heart of palm. I removed it from the can. You could give it a rinse if you'd like. You don't have to. The brine that it's in actually tastes very similar to the heart of palm. It really infuses that. And all I'm simply going to do is slice this up. So let me double check here one more time. I can see myself on this screen here, and I think I am on the Zoom here. Hold on one second.
If anyone has any questions for Jocelyn as we're going through, I did see Stacy dropped it in the chat, but feel free to use a Q&A feature and we can take some questions from there as well.
Great. So I'm going to get chopping here. I'm just going to pan down right now just so you should be able to see my cutting board here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a few of my spheres of heart of palm, and they're essentially spheres within spheres. So as you start cutting, you're going to start to see some of the spheres start to move around. Actually, this is a really great example because they're not moving around too much. And I like to create this sphere shape with my knife. You can see here that it's almost like rings within rings. And this is really cool because I think that it really emulates sort of like a very similar style of like calamari shape, or if you have like one large piece, it can kind of feel a little bit like a scallop shape. So all I'm doing is simply slicing through, and I'm being very careful here to not cut my hands. You always want to make sure that you bear claw the hand that's holding on to the food, which means that you're not using your fingertips to hold on to the food, but you're using the bear claw shape so that you're cutting against your knuckles and not against your fingers, just to avoid cutting off those precious fingertips that we need for so many other things. And I'm gonna just keep slicing here. Again, you can dice, you can mince, you can do whatever you like to do. This is just my personal preference of how I like to eat the heart of palm. I think that it just looks really nice in the dish. It has a nice color contrast. It definitely pops a lot more. I definitely have diced this before in other dishes. And as you can see, I'm also cutting a couple at a time. So you could do that too. It's really up to you. You can cut one at a time if you want to be extra safe and make sure that you're not gonna have too much heart of palm floating around.
Jocelyn.
Last couple pieces. Yes?
Sorry to interrupt you, but we do have a question from Maria Redden.
Yeah.
She is asking, can we use artichoke hearts or mushrooms instead? Her supermarket was actually out of heart of palms.
That is a great question. Okay, so you can absolutely use artichoke hearts. I have made this dish with artichoke hearts before. The flavor is going to be slightly different, but it's still going to be good. So next time your store does have it on hand, pick up a few cans or jars of heart of palm and give it a try, but you can definitely use artichoke hearts for now. And then the second option that you mentioned was the mushrooms. So yes, you can absolutely use mushrooms. I've actually used oyster mushrooms for a cocktail dish that is prepared very similarly to this one. And it just, I think, is the best mushroom option for this dish, because oyster mushrooms are called oyster mushrooms because they do have sort of this kind of like seafoody or fishy type of flavor. At least some of the varieties do. And so that could definitely be another option that you can use if you don't have heart of palm on hand. So as you can see, I have my heart of palm here in a bowl, and now I see that the other camera is on. Great. I think they were able to locate it there. So you should be able to see potentially the other one. All right. I'm not sure if that's working. I'll keep panning down just in case. So I have my heart of palm here. All I'm simply going to do is I'm going to add some olive oil and some lemon juice. And I already have them combined in this measuring cup. I have a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil, and I have a 1/2 cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice. It doesn't have to be freshly squeezed, but I think it definitely does give it a really nice flavor if it's freshly squeezed. If you have pre-squeezed but still natural lemon juice, then you can definitely use that. You can usually find that in the refrigerated section of your grocery store. If you have the kind that is like in a green bottle that was somewhere in the middle area of your grocery store, maybe not that type of lemon juice. And the reason I use the lemon juice is obviously ceviche has such a beautiful punch of citrus to it. And I like using lemons here versus limes, just because I'm based in Los Angeles and this is a native ingredient that you can find at most farmers markets. I have a lemon tree in my backyard. It's something that you can easily find, where limes are typically imported from Mexico. And it's not that I don't love limes, but I just like to use as many local ingredients as possible. So that's half a cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice. And then I have that 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. It may seem like quite a bit, but I really like the fat content that the olive oil brings to the dish, because it you're using heart of palm. Heart of palm is literally the center or the core of a palm tree that grows in South America. And you need a little bit of that fat to emulate that fattiness that you would have in a fish or seafood that you would use in a ceviche. So you need to have a little bit of that fat incorporated. And I think that extra virgin olive oil does that really nicely. And it also has like a really nice body to it to coat all the ingredients really well. So I'm simply going to pour my 1/4 cup of olive oil, my half a cup of lemon juice over my heart of palm. And the other thing I'm going to add here is a little bit of freshly ground black pepper, or just ground black pepper if that's what you have on hand. And I'm going to add some salt to taste. And I'm going to add a couple pinches. I want this to be a little bit salty, mostly because once I add all the other ingredients, the tomatoes, the cucumber, the cilantro, and everything else, the avocado, it's definitely going to dilute that saltiness. So it may taste a bit salty now. And I want that because I want the heart of palm to really marinate in this kind of salty, lemony, oily mixture. And I'm just going to gently mix this together to make sure that my heart of palm is fully incorporated and that it's fully coated. And then at this point, we're going to let it sit. If you have room in your fridge, you can definitely let it hang out in your fridge for the next few minutes as we work on the next couple things. And if you don't have room in your fridge, you can just set it aside. It's pretty chilly out, so it'll be totally fine if it sits on your counter. And I will pass it back to Christina to do another couple activities with us before we move on to the next steps.
So we actually have a question from another guest.
Oh, yeah.
His name is Gordon, and he wants to know, when you went from eating vegetarian to eating fully plant-based, what alternatives do you like now instead of cheese?
That's a great question. So I actually make my own cheese. So I guess my question back to Gordon, I think is the person who asked this, is what type of cheese are you craving, or what type of cheese do you think that you kind of can't live without, that you would want to find an option for in this plant-based journey, right? So in my book, La Vida Verde, I do have a couple of cheese recipes. I have everything from a fermented cashew cream to a fermented queso fresco. I also have a queso quesadilla in here, which is a slightly melty cheese that is perfect for quesadillas topped with a little bit of chorizo. That's also in the book. I have a little bit of a recipe for queso añejo, which is more of like a crumbly, briny, salty cheese that you can use to top something like a guacamole, as well as a nacho cheese that you can even use for mac and cheese. So there's a variety of different cheeses out there. The key is to get it nice and fermented so that you bring out all the flavors that you miss in a cheese. And the other thing that I will say is that I'm a huge fan of Miyoko's Creamery. If you've never had that, it's now available at most grocery chains. And I think that they also do deliver directly to consumer. But Miyoko's is great. They have everything from, you know, an herb-filled cheese to butter to so many different things that you can pick up at your local grocery store. And it tastes so much like cheese. So hopefully you can check that out. And the last option that I will say is there is a company based here in Los Angeles called Blovka. It's like Blode. Just hit me up on Instagram and I can send it to you. But they do have really, really good cashew-based fermented cheeses. Everything that has like black garlic. Another one is herbivore. That one is my favorite, and they are really, really good. It's more like a spread. So yeah, thank you for that question.
Yeah, so Gordon replied to you and he said, what about a melty cheese like for a quesadilla?
I got you, Gordon. So check out the book. Yeah, hopefully you'll be pleased with that cheesy version of a quesadilla.
Awesome. We also have another question that I'm seeing from a 3-year-old apparently. She's asking, what is your favorite fruit to cook with? She likes mangoes.
Ooh, I love mangoes too. I actually have one here that is super hard and I'm waiting for it to ripen up. It's like right on cue right here. But I love all fruit. Lately, I've been really loving grapes just to munch on. It's good to have fruit that's easily accessible around your home so that when you're feeling like you're kind of hungry, you want to snack on something, instead of reaching for something that's like really, really processed, you can easily pick up, you know, a mango or a peach when they're in season, or something else that you can just munch on and kind of get that craving met, right? So I love all fruit. I actually am growing passion fruit right now in my garden. And so I'm gonna make an agua fresca after this with a little bit of passion fruit. I probably should have included this in my margarita. And then, believe it or not, one of my favorite fruits for this 3-year-old, guess what this is? This is a fruit. Avocado is a fruit, technically. I love it so much that I even got a tattoo of it. So avocado is probably, if we're getting all technical, and this is a fruit, it grows on trees, this is probably my favorite of all time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. So we're going to go ahead and let that heart of palm marinate a little bit, and we'll be right back with Jocelyn. So maybe you weren't the first person to log on tonight, or maybe you were not the first person to donate, but we still want to give you an opportunity to win a signed copy of Jocelyn's cookbook. So if you want to learn how to make that cheese, it's right in here in La Vida Verde. So this is how it's going to work. In just a minute, you will see a multiple choice question pop up on the screen. The question is related to what girls in our virtual programs are currently learning. So get your keyboards ready, because the first person to type in the correct letter, A, B, or C, in the chat box will be our winner. Is everybody ready? Here we go. What do you call the path on which electric current flows? Is it A, circuit, B, circle, C, conductor? So let's go ahead and go over to one of our DIY girls for the correct answer.
The correct answer is A, circuit.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. So once again, the correct answer was A, and the first person who typed that in the chat will receive a private message about their prize from one of our team members. Like I mentioned earlier, even if you were not the first person to make a donation tonight, you can still do so by texting DIY 2020 to the number 707070. You can also make your donation pledge directly by emailing Amanda Rivera at amanda@diygirls.org. All this information can be found in the chat box. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over back to Jocelyn, who is going to get us started with our mezcal margarita.
All right, and I'm back. All right, everyone. Congratulations to whoever got that correct. So we are going to get started with, as the heart of palm continues to marinate, we're going to get started on our margarita. And so as you can see, you see me and you see my cutting board. I have a few ingredients that I am preparing for our margarita. First things first, I have my citrus, which is this pretty much star ingredient of our dish tonight, or of our cocktail tonight. And if you're making this in a mocktail form, you can definitely just add a little bit of sparkling water to your cocktail, or just water and make it an agua fresca. It'll be still equally delicious. And so I have here a couple oranges. I have a lemon. This was actually an orange that I had already cut previously, and I have a lime. So I'm including a lime in this one just because I like the tanginess that the lime brings to this dish. And before I get cutting into these citrus and squeezing them, I do have here a little bit of salt. I really like to use sal de Colima as the rim of my glass for this margarita. And I like it because it has a nice texture to it. It's a bit crunchy. It's not overly powering in the saltiness, but of course you can use any salt that you have on hand. If you have pink Himalayan, if you have a kosher salt, whatever it is that you have, you can definitely spread it on a little plate like I have it here. And one other thing I like to do before cutting into the citrus is using just a fine grater. You can use a bigger grater if that's what you have on hand. This isn't mandatory. It's not a big part of the recipe, but it'll just make it even more delicious. And all I'm going to do is zest just a little bit of my citrus peel into my sal de Colima. And that's just going to make sure that as I'm rimming my glass, I have just a really, really nice flavor of citrus included in that rim. So every time I take a sip of this cocktail, I'm going to get an extra amount of citrus deliciousness. And I really like that contrast of color with the green and the white from the salt. And of course, you can do this with the orange or whatever else you have on hand. If it's, the lemon that you want to use, if you have some grapefruit, whatever it is, you can totally use that. So I just wanted to give you that quick little trick and tip if you happen to have a little grater on hand. It could be a bigger grater, but this does just a great job of finely grating our salt. And I will go ahead and start breaking down my lime, my lemon, and my couple oranges, and just start squeezing all of this and getting all that juice ready in our cocktail. So this is a really, really simple cocktail. Oh, and this one's actually a grapefruit that I pulled out by accident, but that'll be just as delicious. And I'm just going to throw in that other half of the citrus just because I have it here. So I have a citrus squeezer that I'm going to use just to squeeze a lot of this by hand. And then obviously I also have my Mexican lemon squeezer that I'll use to put some of this into a glass. So all I'm going to do is squeeze all of this delicious juice. And this works really nicely also if your citrus was refrigerated, because it's going to be nice and cold, and it's going to just be so much easier to chill your cocktail if the citrus is already cold. If it's not, no big deal, but for next time that that's another little trick that you can do to make sure that you have a really, really nice, crisp, cold cocktail. And I do have some ice on standby too, so it's going to be chilled either way. I like to just put all of this into a jar and mix it up in a jar or in a small pitcher, which hopefully you have in front of you. If you don't have that, you can also use a cocktail shaker if that's what you have on hand, although this will serve a couple of cocktails, probably about 4 of them. So you may have to do it in batches if you have a much smaller container. And I see that some people, hopefully you can all see my cutting board down at the bottom. So you should be able to see both screens. I can see the chat as well too. So if you have any questions coming through, I'll try to keep an eye on that chat to make sure that I'm answering any questions. Hopefully if you're squeezing your citrus, your hands are kind of dirty right now, getting into this oranges and the lemons, and you're not able to type at the moment, which is totally fine. And I really love mixing a variety of different citrus in this, because I think that you just hit all the notes rather than having only orange juice or just having just lemon juice, which would be too acidic, or lime, which would be too tart. It kind of creates a really, really nice balance. And I think that they all play a really beautiful role together. It's like they're all singing together so beautifully. And the other thing is just to make sure that you are keeping at least one piece of citrus that you're going to use to just add a bit of juice to the rim of your glass so that you can stick that salt to your glass. You can also use a little bit of water, but it sticks even more when you have that little bit of sugar from the orange juice, for example. It just helps to make sure that you are sticking all that salt to your glass. So here I've pretty much squeezed most of my orange juice here. Let me make sure that is all worked into my juicer here. Right now I'm just hand squeezing some lemon, or sorry, this is my lime, into this mix of citrus, and just getting all that goodness into this cocktail. And I think that fresh juice and making your own fresh cocktail or margarita mix specifically is so important. In fact, you know, when we were all going to restaurants regularly before all of this 2020 madness, I always used to make sure if I was at a restaurant and I wanted to order a margarita, I would always ask, are you using a mix or are you using fresh juice? And if they say they were using a mix, I would oftentimes ask them to squeeze fresh juice. You may call me a bit picky, but I just want to make sure that I'm getting a really great cocktail. And the mix for me just never really was great. It was just okay, you know, but if you want to get a really good cocktail, you want to get really good tequila or mezcal, and you also want to make sure that you have freshly squeezed delicious citrus. So I have all of my citrus that's squeezed here. I'm going to pour this all into a jar. So I have my jar here. I'm just going to carefully pour everything in. You're getting the extreme close-up version there. All right, there we go. And the other thing I'm going to pour into my jar is, of course, some sugar. So I have here half a cup of sugar. If you're using agave syrup, you could use much less of it, obviously. You can use 1/3 of a cup. You can start with less, give it a taste and see if it needs more. Again, some of this is lemon, so it could taste a bit acidic. And that acidity from the citrus is also going to help us break down the sugar. So I had half a cup of just raw sugar, just raw turbinado sugar. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my whisk and give it a good whisk until I feel like it's really well incorporated. And that might take a couple minutes. While that's happening, while I'm allowing that citrus to do its thing, I'm just going to rim my glass, or in your case, if you're doing several cups, you can rim your glasses, right? I'm going to set this aside for a moment. I'm going to bring back that salt that I had earlier, and I have a glass here, and all I'm going to do is you just use a little bit of this orange to just moisten the rim of the glass. And I'm going to simply just bring that moist rim into my batch of salt that has a little bit of citrus in it. So citrus zest. So you can see how beautiful that looks too. It has a nice bit of color to it. And I'll set this aside. I can get rid of my citrus. I'm gonna just keep these peels on the side just in case I need to rim any other glasses or can squeeze any more of this out. And I'm gonna bring back my liquid here. And as you can see, I'm just making sure that my sugar is fully diluted. If you find that my citrus right now wasn't super juicy, one of the oranges was juicy, the others were not. So if you find that maybe it's a little too sweet or too sweet from the sugar, or you just want more juice, you can definitely add a little bit more. I'm going to give mine a little taste. I'm going to grab a spoon. And it should definitely stand out at you. You should feel a nice amount of freshly squeezed citrus. You should definitely taste that sweetness from the sugar you just added. If you want more juice, you can add more juice if you have citrus around. And then the other thing I'm going to add is, of course, tequila. So I have, actually, I shouldn't be mixing this one, but I ran out of silver or reposado. So if you have a silver reposado, that's typically what you would use to mix a cocktail. Añejo is not so common for mixing cocktails. This is more smooth and ready to drink on its own. But I'm going to go ahead and add it because that's what I have. Alternatively, you could use something like a mezcal, for example, would be really delicious in this if you have mezcal available. And you're going to use anywhere from 3/4 of a cup to a cup of your liquor, your tequila or your mezcal. And I'm going to go ahead and add that now. So let me pour this in to a measuring cup, and I will pour that into my mixture here. Let me add, that was half a cup, FYI. I'm not adding a second cup. So now I'm going into my 1 cup there. So that nice amount of the sweetness and the citrus is going to balance really, really well with this kind of earthy, almost smokiness that the tequila has.
Everyone is loving your tips about zesting the rim and also asking asking at bars if it's, you know, freshly squeezed or if they're using made mix. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we pay kind of a premium price for cocktails at restaurants. So you should get something really good when you order it. And the more you know about the alcohol itself, you could also ask for specific liquor. You could say, you know what, I really want, you know, burrito mezcal. I really want, what añejos do you have on hand? And the more you learn about it, the more that cocktail is going to be so delicious every time. But it's never going to be as delicious as when you make it at home. Trust me. The more you get good at it, the better it will be. So I have here just some ice. Don't mind my reach here. I have a bowl of ice. I can just bring that over. I have a bowl of ice here. I'm just adding it to my glass. You can add as much ice as you'd like. Of course, this is gonna melt a little bit into the cocktail. So you know, if the cocktail feels a little strong, a little sweet, you have that ice to kind of help mellow it out too. And that of course is also gonna chill it. And so here we have our margarita that is ready to sip on. So cheers everyone to DIY Girls and all the amazing work that everyone here is doing. So we will move on to our rest of our meal in a second, but just wanted to give that big cheers to everyone. Salud.
Salud, thank you. I think we have another question here.
Yeah.
We can answer. Is there a particular recipe that has been embraced by your family and become a staple at family fiestas?
That is a great question. And yes, I think that the ceviche that we're making here is one that my family has definitely embraced. You know, it's interesting because my mom is from Zacatecas, which has no ocean around it. So she didn't grow up eating seafood. My dad is from Quito, and although he was kind of close to the ocean, he grew up in extreme poverty, actually. And so he didn't ever really have the opportunity to eat too much seafood. And it wasn't until my family migrated here and settled here in Los Angeles that seafood became a part of our immediate family's traditions. And we would always, especially during summer months, travel to the port of Los Angeles to San Pedro and go pick out, you know, all the things that we wanted to eat, seafood, right? And so seafood was something that was extremely difficult for me to give up. And then when I started trying to bring around alternatives to my family, it was hit or miss, but it wasn't until this heart of palm ceviche that I developed that they really started to embrace it, and they realized like it was just so good. And like I've mentioned, I've done it with oyster mushrooms and a variety of different things. And my mom actually makes it for friends and family now. So that's when you know that they like it, when they're making it for other people. Or she'll call me and be like, what was that ensalada that you made that one day? What was in it? I'm like, oh, okay, all right, you're asking me for the recipe. That's awesome. So I think that whenever people ask me, like, if you're trying to go plant-based or if you're thinking about it, and I'm not here to say you have to be 100% plant-based. I'm not one of those folks. I'm just encouraging people to try to eat more plant-based wherever you can. But if you are trying to include that journey with your family, I think you should work on trying to perfect the dishes that you already know how to make really well in a, you know, non-vegan version, and trying to tweak it to be plant-based or vegan. And once you get it really good, you can share that with other people. And if they love it, they're going to be more open to more things that you start to cook. So if the food is good, you can't deny the food, right? That's the biggest thing. But if you bring something and you're like, it's vegan and it's not that great, you're gonna have a lot of people kind of questioning whether they would ever want to go plant-based. Okay, so I'm gonna pan down right now and let's continue with this heart of palm ceviche. So you should see my cutting board now. And I have here my heart of palm that has been marinating. I'm not sure how many minutes because I've been chatting away, but it's probably been somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes or so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep adding the rest of my ingredients to this. And it's not too many more ingredients. It's really simple. I have one jalapeno. I'm only going to use half of this unless it's not spicy at all. Maybe I'll use the whole thing. I have one globe tomato, or sometimes people call it a beefsteak tomato. This one's kind of like a medium size or so. If you really love tomato, you can definitely adjust it and add more if you'd like. I have a pretty small Hass avocado here that I'm going to be using. And I have one Persian cucumber. So if you have all these ingredients in front of you, including a bunch of cilantro, let's get chopping and let's get to it. So the first thing I'll cut is my tomato. And again, I'm just going to bare claw my hands. My knife definitely needs to be sharpened. Let me grab another knife so that I don't have to sharpen it right now. But if you saw what I did, this sliding across, you never want that. You want your blade to just cut right through. So I definitely need to sharpen that knife. And one thing about knives that I always like to mention in my classes too, is these are probably the only two knives that you'll ever need. A chef's knife, which is a larger knife, and then your smaller paring knife, which is more for precision. I see a lot of knives being sold out there and people always ask me like, what kind of knife should I buy? These are the only two knives you'll ever really need. Perhaps a bread knife if you're a baker or you like to buy fresh whole loaves of bread that you need to slice up. But otherwise, those are the only two knives you'll ever need. So I'm just going to dice up this tomato in 1/4-inch dice pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and just toss it right into the heart of palm bowl. So I'm just grabbing any big bits here that I left behind. And you want to make sure that you have a nice, delicious, ripe tomato. That's going to make the whole dish in general just more delicious. Sometimes I like to use heirloom tomatoes for this dish, and also if there's a difference in color, you can also make it even more of a vibrant dish. So you can use like a yellow heirloom tomato, or a slightly green or deep red heirloom tomato, and that's going to make your dish, give it another pop of color, another level of flavor, because heirloom tomatoes are so much more delicious. And so again, just dicing through this tomato really simply. In a moment, I'll pick that all up and put it into my bowl with the heart of palm. I'm going to use half of this jalapeno, and you always want to taste your jalapeno. So I can give it a smell, and I could already tell just from smelling it that it has a nice amount of capsaicin in it. So it's pretty spicy. I'm going to cut the top off. I'll cut out the seeds out of this. If it wasn't too spicy, you can you can keep the seeds in there if you wanted to, but I'll go ahead and remove that because I do sense that there is some spiciness to it. There was one event that I did not too long ago where we didn't taste the jalapeno. We just made our ceviche for an event. We didn't taste the jalapeno. We have a standard recipe for it, and all of the ceviche was coming back, and we're like, what's happening? We know that people love the ceviche, and why is no one eating it? And sure enough, we gave it a taste, and it was like the spiciest ceviche I've ever had. The jalapeno that we used was just so extremely spicy. The ceviche was inedible. It was so insane. I had never had a jalapeno that spicy before. So we were like, okay, we get it. We know why it's coming back.
Yeah, it can be a hit or miss.
It could really be a hit or miss. You never know. So I'm just going to go ahead and dice my cucumber here. So I just cut it in half lengthwise. I cut off the top, bottom, cut it in half lengthwise, and I'm just going to create long strips here. It feels so odd using the smaller knife. I could probably cut this with my bigger knife. It was just the tomato skins were a little bit hard. And so you just want to dice that up again into about 1/4-inch pieces. And this is all going to go in that bowl of the heart of palm that's been marinating. And This is just going to provide so much freshness, so much deliciousness. I mean, this is really like the heart and soul of ceviche right here. These ingredients, jalapeno, tomato, cucumber, aguacate, that is going to make the dish shine so nicely. And the last thing I'll do here is just cut my avocado. You can reserve a couple slices if you want for it to just garnish the top of your ceviche dish. I forgot to grab a spoon. Let me go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to bring the avocado skin onto my cutting board. And you can slice, dice, do whatever you'd like to do with the avocado. I like to leave, like I mentioned, a few slices aside so that I can garnish the dish. But I also like to include some avocado in the dish because it gives it a nice bit of that fatty texture, the creaminess that we talked about earlier. And so it just kind of melts into the ceviche itself. So I'm going to bring my bowl of heart of palm over and I'm going to just mix all this in.
We have another question from Tara Devlin. She's asking, she noticed that you used the Persian cucumber. Do you prefer this over English or the big old grocery store slicing cucumber?
That's a great question. I really love Persian cucumber in this dish because I find that it doesn't have a whole lot of huge seeds and too much liquid the way that the big old grocery store ones have. English ones are fine, you know, but Persian cucumbers, I just think that they feel so much more vibrant in their flavor profile. So that's just my personal preference. But if you have the other variety on hand, you can definitely use it. So I just prefer this Persian cucumber. I'm going to go ahead and mix these ingredients in. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just mince up some cilantro. I like to use the stems and all. I just cut off the very tips of the stems just because they might be a little bit more tough. And then I'll slice my whole bunch in half and bring it all together into one larger bunch. And then I will just simply mince this all up. Again, bear clawing my hand, making sure that I'm tucking in all my fingertips, all my nails, and just going through this whole bunch of cilantro. You can use less cilantro if you want to, but I absolutely love cilantro. I think that it is such a delicious herb, the most delicious herb in my opinion. And so it's just something that I like to use a whole lot of in this dish because I think that it just provides such a great freshness, such an earthiness, and it makes it feel undeniably Mexican. Although I will say that in researching just food in general, and then also learning more about so many different ingredients as I was writing my book, cilantro is actually not native to Mexico. So I can't imagine, you know, Mexican food without this herb that really, I feel, ties so many of our dishes together, whether it's just a garnish or it's really ingrained. And so, yeah, imagine Mexican food without cilantro. That's what we had before, before colonization, before spice trade. All right, so I am just going to mix all of this all together. Look at how delicious that looks. You have all that earthy goodness. And I'm just gently folding it all together because I want to make sure that I don't break up the heart of palm pieces. When you buy the heart of palm, you'll find that there's a couple different varieties. Sometimes the heart of palm is like kind of tough, a little bit crunchy. Sometimes it's really, really soft and tender. Like as you're cutting it, it'll just kind of squish and, you know, you can't really slice it because it's just so soft. I like the heart of palm that's kind of in between those two textures, where it definitely holds its shape, but it's not crunchy. It definitely has a little bit of this soft tenderness. I'm just giving it a taste for salt. And it is perfect on salt. No need for extra salt. Don't mind my messy cutting board here. I'm going to give my hand a quick rinse. And let me plate this ceviche dish. So I'm just going to plate directly over my messy cutting board because that's where all the cameras are pointed here. I'm going to grab a spoon here and I'm just going to gently spoon some of this heart of palm over a tostada that I already had ready to go. And the last thing that you can do to plate this dish is you can use some of your avocado slices. So I'm going to grab 3 slices that I'll just fan here. You can fan them kind of wide. And then I will grab, I have a tablespoon of black sesame seeds, which I like to use as a garnish and a little bit of bite and crunch. And I'm just going to sprinkle some of those over my tostada. And the last thing is I recently just got a little bit of black salt from a store here in Los Angeles called Surface. It's a chef store. And I thought it would be really cool to also garnish the dish with a little bit of crunchy garnishing salt that's black, just like the black sesame seeds. So I can just, obviously you can see that I'm a fan of salt. So this is our final dish. There we are.
It looks absolutely delicious.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you're sorry you're not cooking, so you're not enjoying in on the fun right now.
I really wanted to be
bite.
at the office so everyone could, enjoy the purple wall of our office. But we can't thank you enough for joining us, Jocelyn. I can see from the chat that a lot of people just can't wait to get their hands on that recipe and make it at home if they didn't already. If you did make it, please share it with us on social media, tag DIY Girls. All of our handles can be found in the chat. But yeah, I think everyone's really excited to try it, as am I. So hopefully, tomorrow I have the day off. Maybe I can take some time to make that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And cheers, everyone. Enjoy.
Cheers. Thank you, Jocelyn.
Thank you.
Awesome. So before we move on, we do want to give our guests one more chance to win a signed cookbook. Again, you can learn how to make the cheese and so many other recipes. I was looking through it and there's so many things that I'm like, wow, I never thought that you could make this into plant-based, but it looks delicious. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put up another multiple choice question on the screen in just a minute. And once again, it is also, okay, they already put it up. So what is an error in a coding program called? Is it A, fault, B, flaw, or C, bug? And I see the chat box is just blowing up. Thank you all for participating. Awesome. So once again, I'll turn it over to one of our girls for the correct answer.
The answer is C, bug.
Awesome. So thank you to Melody. Once again, she mentioned that the correct answer was C, bug. The first person who typed that into the chat will receive a private message about their prize from one of our team members. And up next, we would like to share a story that is very important to DIY girls. Let's all go ahead and see Cecilia's story.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Rosales, and I am currently a senior at San Fernando High School. This is my second year with DIY Girls, and it has been an amazing experience. Last year, I was a part of a team that created a prototype of an accessory and an app that allows a person in danger to share their location via a text message. I was assigned to the software team and had the opportunity to work on web applications. Through the DIY Girls program, I learned about computer science and languages including Python, Java, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. I also learned how to run, manage, and build a web application. Because of this, I overcame my fear of asking others for help, especially my peers and my instructors. The team empowerment within the DIY Girls program has truly made an impact on me. Everyone on the team, from the instructors to the volunteers to my fellow DIY girls, support each other and help each other when we run into challenges. When I'm with the team, I am a part of a community of girls who are interested in STEM and want to make a difference in this world. Thanks to support of people like you, hundreds of girls just like me are able to have this STEM community. Being a DIY girl means realizing that I could do things I never imagined I could do. It means that girls and women can empower each other and watch each other grow. Most importantly, it means that women, especially Latinas, can tackle gender stereotypes associated with careers in STEM. When I first joined DIY Girls, I didn't know what I wanted to major in or what career path I wanted to take. When I began working with the software team, I found an unknown passion for computer programming. Thanks to DIY Girls, I realized that I want to pursue a career in STEM and major in computer science. I'll be graduating high school in the spring, and I hope to attend UC Berkeley or UC Davis in the fall of 2021. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for helping DIY Girls teach young ladies like me that the future is ours to make.
Wow, those videos always get me. Tori, isn't it great to hear how a young girl's life has changed through our programs and how exposure to STEM really inspires our girls to seek degrees and careers in STEM fields? I remember being their age and being exposed to math, science, technology, and engineering. And I'm pretty sure that's what led me to a degree in science and a career at Arcadis, a global engineering and architecture firm. I remember my college science classes and being one of the few only girls. It was not a good feeling. But that's why I serve on the board of DIY Girls, to make sure young women are exposed to careers in fields they normally wouldn't be. And I'm a firm believer in exposure to inspire.
Yeah, Makaria, my father was the first in his family to attend college. He became an engineer. And then he supported me in those not for girls interests and bought me my first computer when I was 10, which is a really big deal. But not everybody has those advantages, and increasing access is really important to me. Every year, I love seeing our seniors graduate and go to college. Those numbers Letitia mentioned, like 100% of our girls go on to graduate and go to college, with 75% pursuing a STEM-related major. Their effort, and it's them at the heart of it, their effort motivates me to increase my effort supporting DIY Girls.
I absolutely agree with you. And those are some great numbers and statistics. But let's not forget the number tonight, $20,000. It is not too late for all of you to help us make that goal. And I think I just heard that we're halfway there. So don't forget, text DIY 2020 to 707070 and make sure your donation ends in a 1. You can make that donation. We love competition here. And you can make that donation through a chat, through email, or text. Just please donate.
Donate, but end the donation in 2 for me, because check it out. It's a good headband.
That's pretty awesome. But you know what? I think we should step it up. For every donation that you get, I will give you $1.
And if you win, I'll donate $1 to DIY Girls for every single vote that you get on yours. And either way, DIY Girls wins.
Deal. It's a win-win, right, for both of us. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. Assemblymember Rivas is the proud founder of DIY Girls, who believes young girls everywhere deserve more hands-on STEM opportunities. She continues to fight for our community as an elected official by working with economic development, labor, and employment policies. Please help me welcome California State Assemblymember Luz Rivas.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Makaria, Tori, DIY Girls team. Congratulations on this amazing event. Good evening to all of you that are here. I am the founder of DIY Girls and now State Assembly member representing the East San Fernando Valley, which is where DIY Girls is located. It's where I grew up, and hence why DIY Girls is based in the San Fernando Valley. So I started DIY Girls 8 years ago. I think it was October 1st that our first after-school program ran at Telfair Elementary in Pacoima, which is my elementary school. So I wanted to start a program at my own school because when I was in 5th grade, that's when I was exposed to computer science. And this is in 1984, a long time ago. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have internet access at home. So the first time I saw this machine in my 5th grade class, I thought it was just a toy to play with. But it was an Apple IIe computer that had a green cursor, and there was nothing you could do to it. You had to program it for the computer to do anything. And I loved it. You know, I was a 10-year-old. No one in my family is a scientist or engineer. You know, my mom worked in factories, cleaning houses, which the majority of my friends and my classmates' parents are immigrants, you know, working in manufacturing or other jobs like that, but not really professionals. So we didn't talk about science and technology at the dinner table, and weren't exposed to these professionals. But that experience in 5th grade really changed my life. And since then, you know, that's how I ended up getting interested in engineering. I ended up going to MIT right after high school, and then was an engineer for a few years. So I'm an electrical engineer by training, and I practiced electrical engineering for a few years after college. And so obviously, I'm very passionate about STEM education, especially getting young girls interested. And DIY Girls has worked. Since 2012, the organization has served thousands of girls. I don't know the count now. I used to know the count, but it got too high, which is amazing. And, you know, I started it off with just by myself with 30 kids, 30 young girls that were in 5th grade. Now those girls are off to college. They're in their first year of college right now. They're studying biomedical engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science, math. It's so amazing to now see these young ladies that I started with when they were 10 and now pursuing STEM careers. And so programs like this work, you know, and you might not see the result the next day or the next year, but I have been involved for 8 years and I have results. I see how interested these young women are in STEM. And so it's all possible because of people like you that have joined us tonight. Every dollar goes to helping these young girls learn STEM, from, you know, buying all the materials for those electronics projects, you know, buying laptops and 3D printing supplies and 3D printers, all of that. And as someone that is from that community, the same community as the girls that we serve is from, we didn't, you know, my family, I grew up with a single mother. We're not the type that were sent to summer camps, or my mom couldn't afford to pay for some type of enrichment after school program. And so these girls, the only STEM, hands-on STEM they're getting is from DIY Girls, right? They're not going off to summer camp or, you know, anything like that, because their parents can't afford it. And the girls could not afford to pay for this program either. When I was running DIY Girls, probably the average income, the family income of the girl was in the 20s, I think 28,000 for a family of 4. You know, we once collected that data for something that we needed for a report. And these are families of 4 that are surviving in Los Angeles on 28,000 a year. I mean, and so the parents appreciate everything that DIY Girls does for them, and they contribute in other ways. When I was there, parents would bring food, they would volunteer their time if they could. So just know that just from the parents of these young girls, they are also appreciative of your support. So thank you so much. Congratulations, DIY Girls. Congratulations for this successful event and for your success. Very excited to be here, and thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Rivas, and congratulations on your re-election.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely, and I'm being told that we have served over 4,600 girls to date. So thank you for having that vision, that inspiration many years ago, because obviously your fruits of your labor have totally paid off. And I also want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed our program as much as I did. And I was hoping to say, hooray, we reached our 20,000 goal, but we have not. We are halfway there. We're a little over 10,000. So we have 1 hour remaining to fundraise $10,000 more dollars. So please get to donating.
Our silent auction will also remain open until 7 p.m. Pacific. So if you haven't had an opportunity to visit our site, you go to diygirls.com/auction or look at the information in the chat box. And so far, our text to donate poll has me in the lead, obviously. But Makaria still has a chance. Keep texting. You can still donate to our fundraising campaign. Text DIY 2020 to 707070. And every dollar donated by you today will be used to support our programs that benefit and empower young girls across Los Angeles to persist in science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM. And every vote for one of our headbands will increase the amount Makari and I donate as part of our challenge. And the girls appreciate it, their parents appreciate it, we appreciate it, we appreciate you.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I hope we brought a little bit of STEM into your homes today. Thank you to our sponsors, our donors, our board members, and individuals who had generously donated to make our event possible tonight. And I do have to say, thank you to our DIY Girls staff. Without their hard work and heavy lifting, this event and all of our programs wouldn't be possible. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget, text to donate, look at our online auction, and your donation in one, and have a fabulous evening, and cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers.